Emily's words hit me like a slap while she stood in Jason's kitchen, her wedding dress hanging perfectly behind her, untouched. She told me the best gift would be if I vanished from their family, and she smiled that fake smile I'd come to loathe. Jason nodded, not even looking at me, and said he agreed. Then she turned to the little camera and, like it was some social media moment, asked people to subscribe and tell her where they were watching from, and insisted she needed likes and comments so everyone would follow along with her version of the story. I stopped, and I tried to give some context. How did I end up here? 3 years ago, I sold our beautiful Victorian on Maple Avenue in Charleston, the house William and I had poured ourselves into restoring, so Jason and Emily could have the down payment on their dream home. $87,000. My entire life savings, handed over, because I loved them, because I wanted to help. They promised I'd always have a place, they promised I'd always be family. Now, the day before the big, elaborate wedding I was paying for, Emily decided I was disposable. You heard her? Jason said at last, his voice cold. This weekend was supposed to be special for us. Your negativity is ruining everything. My negativity? I'd spent the morning arranging flowers, the afternoon running last-minute errands, and the evening listening to Emily complain about everything. The weather, the caterer, everything except the real thing. The only negative I'd done was suggest we skip the ice sculptures shaped like swans. Where exactly do you expect me to go? I asked, keeping my voice unnaturally calm. Emily shrugged, looking at her perfect nails. I don't know. A hotel? Your sister's? Honestly, Sarah, I don't care as long as you're not here tomorrow. Jason jumped in, clearing his throat. It's more Emily's house now. She's handled the money, the improvements. You just gave us some money once. She said it like it was nothing. Some money once. As if those $87,000 were a small thing to be reduced to a phrase. I stood in that kitchen where I'd cooked so many family meals, staring at the granite counters I helped pick, the custom cabinets my money paid for. They had taken everything I gave them and convinced themselves they were owed it. In that moment something in me shifted, not broke, but shifted, like a gear clicking into a new place. You're right, I said softly. I'll go. Emily looked stunned. She'd probably expected me to beg, to cry, to make one more dramatic scene she could later talk about to her friends. I'll pack and be gone within the hour. Jason actually looked relieved. That's probably for the best, Mom, he said. We can talk after the honeymoon, once things settle. Talk after the honeymoon, as if this was some small spat over seating charts. I went upstairs to the guest room I'd been calling home for 6 months. Not my room, because apparently I wasn't allowed to call it that. Guests leave, that was the idea, and that's what the label implied. As I folded clothes into my suitcase, I could hear them downstairs, already planning how to change the house. Emily wanted the guest room turned into a yoga studio. Jason thought it would make a nice office. Not once did either of them consider feeling anything like guilt over tossing out the woman who helped make their lives possible. I paused at the nightstand where William's photo sat. 43 years of marriage, and he'd never made me feel unwanted in my own house. Don't worry, sweetheart, I whispered to his picture. I'm not leaving without a fight. But first, I had phone calls to make. I sat in my car, parked outside the house my money had bought for them, and pulled out my phone. I dialed my lawyer's emergency number. Hannah Lee had been managing my affairs ever since William passed, and she'd warned me something like this could happen. Sarah, it's Saturday night. Is everything okay? She asked. Hannah, I need you to pull every document connected to the house purchase. All of it. There was a pause. Did something happen with Jason and Emily? I told her the whole story, Emily's ultimatum, Jason's betrayal, the way they brushed off my sacrifice as just some money once. Hannah didn't interrupt, though I could hear her typing quickly in the background. Sarah, I've been worried about this for months. They've been treating your investment like a gift, but that's not what it actually was. What do you mean? I asked, my heartbeat picking up. Another long pause. You don't remember signing those extra papers? The ones I pushed for after you got nervous about Emily's spending. Hannah, please tell me you protected me somehow. Oh, sweetheart, that $87,000 wasn't a gift. Legally, it was a loan, and your name is on the deed as a co-owner. Emily never signed the acknowledgement forms I sent her, but in the eyes of the law, you own 35% of that house. I almost dropped the phone. Are you serious? Dead serious. Emily never followed through with her part, and you were so focused on keeping peace that you let it slide. But the mortgage company has you listed as co-borrower, and the deed proves your share. It's all legal and binding. Through the kitchen window, I saw Emily on video chat, probably with her mom, spinning around in that wedding dress, laughing and waving her arms, completely clueless about the conversation that was about to flip her world. Hannah, just hypothetically, what would happen if I wanted to sell my share? As a co-owner, you have every right to push for a sale. Jason and Emily would get first refusal, they could buy you out at market value. But if they can't afford that, the house goes up for sale, and the money gets split based on ownership percentages. I watched Jason pop open a champagne bottle in the kitchen, celebrating the idea of being free from his mother's burden. Hannah, I want you to prepare a notice of intent to sell. It needs to be delivered first thing Monday morning. Are you sure, Sarah? Once we begin. I've never been more sure. They want me gone? Fine. But I'm taking my 35% with me. I hung up and sat there in the dark, watching my son and his fiancée toast their future inside the house I'd made possible. They had no clue that within 48 hours, their perfect little life was going to shatter. But first, I had another call to make. Sunset Hills Country Club, this is Rachel. Hi, Rachel. This is Sarah Miller. I need to speak with your catering manager about tomorrow's wedding reception. Oh, Mrs. Miller, how exciting. The wedding's tomorrow, right? What can I do for you? I'm afraid there's been a change. I need to cancel the reception. Cancel? Ma'am, it's less than 24 hours away. The food's already prepped, the staff scheduled. I understand, and I'll cover the cancellation fees. The thing is, I'm the one who signed the contract and paid the deposit. That means I have the right to make changes. I heard her shuffling through papers on the other end. Let me double-check, Rachel said. Yes, the contract is under your name and tied to your credit card, but surely you'll want to talk this over with the bride and groom first. No need, I replied firmly. I'm making an executive decision. Cancel everything. Mrs. Miller, with all due respect, this feels like something that should involve the happy couple. Through the window, I could see Emily adjusting her veil yet again, for what had to be the 100th time that day. The happy couple made it very clear they don't want me in their lives anymore, I told her. I'm simply giving them what they asked for. 20 minutes later, I was checked into the Hampton Inn across town, eating room service and feeling something I hadn't felt in years, the satisfaction of taking control of my own life. At 11:47 p.m., my phone exploded with shrieking. What did you do? Emily screamed so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I honored your request, I said calmly, muting the TV. You wanted me to disappear, so I disappeared. The country club called. They said you canceled our reception, our wedding reception. Sarah, there are 200 people expecting dinner tomorrow. I'm sure there are, I answered lightly. That does sound like a problem. Jason grabbed the phone. Mom, this is insane. You can't just cancel our wedding because you're upset about the guest room. I didn't cancel your wedding, sweetheart, I replied. You're still free to say your vows. I just canceled the reception I was paying for. You know, the one that cost me $14,000. Silence. I'd never mentioned the cost before, always dodging questions so they could keep pretending I was simply a generous mom. 14,000? Emily's voice was shaky. The reception, the flowers, the photographer, the band. Did you think all of that was free? Did you think money just appears because you two decided you deserved a fairy tale wedding? But we can't tell 200 people there's no reception. Jason stammered. You're both adults. You'll figure it out. I hear McDonald's caters now. Emily broke down into ugly sobs, the kind that might have pierced my heart 6 months earlier. Now they just sounded like the tantrums she'd been throwing since the engagement. How could you do this to us? We trusted you. Trusted me. I shot back. You literally told me to vanish. I'm only following your request. I didn't mean forever. Emily wailed. I just meant for the weekend. Oh, I see, I said. When you said permanently, I was supposed to magically know you actually meant temporarily. My mistake. Jason tried a softer tone. Mom, please. We can talk like adults. Just come back to the house and let's work this out. The house where I'm no longer welcome? The house where my very presence ruins everything? I don't think so. Where are you even staying? Emily demanded. That's not really your concern anymore, is it? I reminded her. You made it clear my living arrangements were my problem. I could hear frantic whispers in the background, no doubt trying to brainstorm a way to untangle the disaster. Can you at least call the country club back? Jason begged. Maybe if you explain it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding, I cut in. It was a clear business decision, made by the one footing the bill. But what about our guests? What about Emily's family flying in from California? What about them? You're still getting married. They'll still witness that. They just won't get a free dinner afterward. Emily snatched the phone back. You're being vindictive and cruel, Olivia wailed, her voice sharp with panic. No, sweetie, I said, keeping my tone steady. Vindictive and cruel was telling the woman who'd been supporting your dream wedding to disappear from your family. I'm being fiscally responsible. They told me this would ruin everything, that everyone would think they were broke. I let that idea hang there for a beat, watching them squirm. Now that you mention it, I said, without my support, you probably will be broke soon. That got their attention. What do you mean? Ethan's voice tightened, thin with panic now. Have you looked at your household budget lately? Do you actually know how much your monthly expenses are versus your income? I could hear frantic whispering in the background. I kept going, calmly but firmly. I've been supplementing your lifestyle in ways you haven't even noticed. The grocery money I slip Olivia when we shop, the utility bills I pay online because you're a little short this month, the car repairs, insurance payments, the little emergencies that always pop up. Olivia said those were gifts, every week, she sniffed. Were they? From where I sat they looked more like an allowance, and allowances can be cut off. The silence on the line was so long I thought they'd hung up. Finally, Ethan asked flatly, What do you want, Mom? That was interesting. An hour ago they couldn't wait to get rid of me, and now they wanted to bargain. I want exactly what you offered me when you told me to disappear, permanently, I told him. And I want to take my money with me when I go. By Sunday morning my phone showed 37 missed calls and 41 texts. I ignored them all, ate room service breakfast, and read the Sunday paper like a civilized person. The wedding was set for 2 in the afternoon. At 9 a.m. there was a knock on my hotel door. Through the peephole I saw Ethan in a wrinkled tuxedo shirt, looking exhausted and guilty. Mom, please, he begged. We need to talk. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Shouldn't you be getting ready for your big day? I asked. That's what I need to talk to you about, he said, eyes red-rimmed, desperate. Olivia's having a breakdown. She locked herself in the bathroom and won't come out. Her mother is threatening to fly back from Florida. Everything's falling apart. I listened, sympathetic enough, and then said, I hope you work it out. Work it out? Mom, you destroyed our wedding. No, son, I corrected him, standing my ground. I removed my financial support. There's a difference. He pushed past me into the room, and I let him. Sometimes you have to let people hang themselves with their own words. This is insane, he said. Over what? Sleeping arrangements. I said, sit down, Ethan. Something in my tone made him obey. He sank onto a chair like a kid finally hearing the truth. I remained standing, looking down at my 42-year-old son who was starting to understand that actions have consequences. This isn't about sleeping arrangements, I said slowly, with pauses so each point landed. This is about respect. This is about gratitude. This is about treating the person who made your life possible like a human being, not an inconvenience. He opened his mouth, then shut it. When was the last time you asked about my life, my interests, my feelings? When was the last time you invited me somewhere because you wanted me there, not because you needed my help? The silence stretched, uncomfortable. When was the last time you called just to talk? When was the last time you remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding you? When was the last time you treated me like your mother, and not your personal bank? That's not fair, is it, Ethan? I asked. In the past year, how much have I given you and Olivia? He fumbled answers, a few thousand here and there, for emergencies. I gave him the number, clear and quiet, $37,000. His face went completely white when I said the numbers, 37,000 for little helps and emergencies, on top of 87,000 for the down payment. That's $124,000, Ethan, I said, letting the math land. More than most people make in 2 years. We were always going to pay you back, he protested. Were you? I asked. Because Olivia's been shopping for a new car, and you've been looking at vacations to Europe. Neither of you has ever once mentioned paying me back. He hunched forward, head in his hands. What do you want from me, Mom? I want you to understand I am not your personal ATM, I said, each phrase slow and careful so it would register. I want you to understand kindness and generosity aren't unlimited. And I want you to understand that if you treat someone badly for long enough, eventually they stop caring about your problems. So you're punishing us by ruining our wedding, he snapped, like it was the simplest thing in the world. The casual cruelty of calling my boundary punishment confirmed everything I'd been feeling. No, Ethan, I said. I'm protecting myself. I'm stopping the pattern of financial abuse. Financial abuse? He scoffed. That's ridiculous. Is it? I answered. You've trained me to believe my only value to your family is money. You expected crumbs of affection in exchange for major financial contributions. You made me feel guilty for having needs, while you took everything I offered for granted. I sat down across from him and leaned forward so he had to meet my eyes. Yesterday, Olivia said the best gift I could give your family was to disappear permanently. And you agreed. He tried to deny it. She didn't mean it. Yes, she meant it. And so did you. And you know what? You're going to get exactly what you asked for. He looked up suddenly, alarmed. What does that mean? I smiled, but it wasn't a gentle smile. It means you better figure out how to pay for your own lifestyle from now on. It means you better hope Olivia's parents are feeling generous. And it means you better start looking at apartments, because the house situation is about to get very complicated. What are you talking about? He demanded. I'm talking about the legal documents you never read when your father and I helped with that down payment, the papers that make me a co-owner of the house. The color drained completely from his face. That's right, I said quietly. I own 35% of your house, and I'm about to put my share on the market. Ethan stared at me like I'd started speaking in an unknown language. You can't own part of our house. We bought it. We live there with my $87,000 down payment. Yes, I said. Did you think that money just disappeared into thin air? But you said it was a gift, he stammered. You said you wanted to help us get started. I pulled up Laura's email from the night before and scrolled to the attachments, the deeds and the loan papers. Apparently, my lawyer had other ideas about protecting my investment, I said. Would you like me to read you the legal documents? This is impossible, he muttered. Olivia had to sign something. She was supposed to sign, I said. She kept forgetting to return the forms. Laura kept them on file anyway. He was shaking now, either from fear or anger. You planned this, he accused. You've been planning it all along. Oh, sweetheart, I said, and I let the truth sit there for a second. If I'd been planning this, don't you think I would have done it before I paid for your wedding? That landed, and I watched it hit him. I'd spent $14,000 on a wedding for people who had just told me to vanish. If I'd been scheming, I'd have cut them off months ago. Not now, I said, letting the point land between us. So what happens now? Ethan asked, voice small and defeated. Now you have a choice, I told him, slow and clear. You can buy my 35% at current market value, or we sell the house and split the proceeds. We can't afford to buy you out, he said. The house is worth $300,000 now. 35% of that is over $100,000. I know math, I said with a little sharp laugh. That's why I have money. And that's why you two are always broke. He flinched. We're not broke. We just have a lot of expenses. Ethan, I said, your combined household income is $8,000 a month. Your mortgage alone is $2,400. Add car payments, credit cards, utilities, groceries, and Olivia's shopping, and you are spending more than you make every month. How do you know all that? He whispered. Because I've been covering the difference for 3 years, I answered. Do you think the money fairy was leaving cash under your pillow? The hotel phone rang, and I picked it up while Ethan sat there, trying to process the new truth. Mrs. Miller, this is Rachel at Sunset Hills, the woman said. I have the bride's mother on another line. She's asking about reinstating today's reception. She'll pay all the costs if you allow us to proceed. I looked at Ethan. He was listening like someone grasping at a life preserver. That's very generous of her, Rachel, I said, but I'm afraid it won't be possible. Ethan started to beg, Mom, please, and I raised a hand to stop him. There are family dynamics here that make it inappropriate for me to accept payment from other family members for an event I chose to cancel, I explained. Please tell Mrs. Harper the cancellation stands. Yes, and Rachel, send my final bill to this hotel. I will settle the cancellation fees. After I hung up, I turned back to Ethan. Olivia's mother was willing to pay $14,000 to save your reception, I said. She's been planning this wedding for months. She invited half her country club. I let the sarcasm sit a second. How nice for her. Too bad her daughter couldn't manage to be civil to the person who was actually paying for everything. Ethan pulled out his phone. I need to call Olivia. We have to figure out the house. Go ahead, I said. But when you talk to your wife about our new arrangement, make sure she understands one thing. He looked up from dialing. I am not the same woman who walked out of your house last night. That woman was desperate to keep the peace at any cost, I said. This woman is done being taken advantage of. You're really forcing us to sell our home, he asked. I'm exercising my legal rights as a co-owner, I said. What you do with that is up to you. He left without another word, probably to deliver the worst news Olivia had ever heard on what was supposed to be the happiest day. 20 minutes later my phone rang again. Claire. Olivia's voice was barely recognizable through the sobs. We need to talk. No, sweetie, I said, slow and controlled. We really don't. You made it very clear yesterday that talking to me wasn't something you were interested in. I was upset, she said. I was stressed about the wedding. I didn't mean what I said. Of course you were upset, I replied. It must be exhausting pretending to tolerate someone you obviously despise. I don't despise you, Olivia, I said. In the 3 years since you moved into the house I bought for you, you've never once thanked me. Not once. You've never asked about my life, my interests, my health. You've never invited me anywhere unless you needed me to babysit, or bring food, or write a check. That's not true, she sniffed, but her words were thin, and I could hear the familiar defensive whispering behind her. When was the last time you called just to see how I was doing? I asked, and there was that long, guilty silence, the kind that says everything without a single word. I'll save you the mental effort, I said, and left the answer hanging in the air. Never. You have never called just to check on me. But you're Michael's mother, your family, Olivia stammered, as if switching labels would fix what she'd said the day before. Yesterday, you told me the best gift I could give this family was to disappear permanently. Today you say I'm family. Which is it, Olivia? Her sobbing got louder, that raw, desperate sound that would have sent me running with tissues 6 months ago. Not now. Please, Dorothy, she begged. I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly. I'll pay you back. Pay me back with what money? I asked. You don't work, remember? You're a full-time homemaker in a house you couldn't afford without my money. I'll get a job, she sniffed. That's a great idea, I said flatly. You should definitely do that. But it doesn't change the house situation. What if we agree to pay you back for everything? All the money you've given us over the years? She asked, hopeful. I almost laughed. Olivia, honey, you owe me $124,000. I said it slowly so it would sink in. At minimum wage, it would take you about 6 years to earn that, and that assumes you never spend a dime on anything else. The silence that followed was the sound of reality hitting home. By 4 p.m. they'd called 16 more times. I answered exactly none of them. Instead, I sat in the hotel restaurant, enjoying a late lunch, and watched the local news cover a wedding disaster at Sunset Hills. The reporter didn't use names, but the footage of Olivia in her wedding dress, crying on the country club steps, was unmistakable. Excuse me, aren't you Dorothy Mitchell? A woman asked, and I looked up to see someone my age, gray hair perfectly styled, kind eyes. She looked familiar, then she smiled. "Do we know each other?" I asked. "Carol Harper," she said, and she motioned to the empty chair across from me. "May I?" This should be interesting, I thought. Carol sat down with the practiced calm of someone used to navigating social messes. "I wanted to thank you," she said, and I blinked. "Thank you," I echoed. "For showing my daughter who she really is," Carol continued, and when the waitress brought coffee she took a slow sip and went on. "I've worried about Olivia for years, the entitlement, the way she treats people she thinks are beneath her, the complete lack of gratitude. I hoped marriage would help, but, after watching how she treated the woman who made her life possible, I'm horrified." She told me she'd offered to pay for the reception, not because she approved of Olivia, but because she felt responsible to the 200 guests who'd been inconvenienced. "But you were right to refuse," Carol said firmly. "My daughter needed to face real consequences, not something Daddy's check can fix." I studied her. There was a refreshing bluntness to her words. "She'd called me hysterical about the house situation," she said, demanding I loan them money to buy me out. I told her absolutely not. If Olivia wanted a house, she should have treated the co-owner with respect. Carol laughed softly. "A woman after my own heart." Then she asked me point-blank, "What's your endgame here? Do you plan to force the sale?" I'd been wondering that myself. "Honestly," I told her, "I haven't decided. Part of me wants to see if they can actually support themselves without my money. Part of me wants to sell the house just to watch their perfect little world crumble. And the other part of me," I admitted, "still remembers that Ethan is my son, despite everything." Carol nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. But may I give you a piece of advice, from someone who's been enabling her daughter's behavior for 39 years? Please don't save them from this. Whatever you decide about the house, don't cushion the fall. Olivia has never faced real consequences for treating people badly, and it's made her into someone I hardly recognize as my daughter." She reached into her purse and pulled out a card. "I'm flying back to Florida tomorrow. But if you ever want to talk to someone who understands what it feels like to love an ungrateful child, call me." When Carol left, I sat alone with my thoughts, and with my phone, which kept buzzing with more desperate messages. The truth was, I hadn't figured out what my endgame was. Up until now, I'd just been reacting, protecting myself, setting boundaries. But now I had to decide what came next. Option 1, the nuclear route. Force the sale. Ethan and Olivia would be stuck in an apartment, probably somewhere less shiny, finally learning what it means to live within their means. Option 2, the merciful route. Offer to sell my share for less than market value, maybe just what I'd put in. They'd still struggle, but at least they could keep their home. And then there was option 3, the spiteful one. Hold on to my stake indefinitely, collect my share of taxes and improvements, and watch them squirm month after month. I was still weighing those choices when my phone rang again. This time it wasn't Ethan or Olivia. "Mrs. Miller, this is Detective Rodriguez with the Virginia Beach Police Department. I'm calling about a report we received regarding financial elder abuse." My blood went cold. "I'm sorry. What?" "We had a call from someone claiming your family has been financially exploiting you, and that you may be showing signs of cognitive decline. They requested a welfare check." Those manipulative little snakes. "Detective Rodriguez," I said evenly, "I can assure you I am in full possession of my faculties. In fact, I'm probably thinking more clearly than I have in years." "That's good to hear, ma'am. But we do need to follow up. Would you be available to meet tomorrow morning?" I looked around the hotel restaurant at the normal people, eating their normal breakfasts, and I felt a surge of pure fury at my son and daughter-in-law's latest stunt. "Absolutely, Detective. In fact, I have quite a lot to discuss with you about financial abuse, just not the kind my family reported." We scheduled a time. Then I leaned back in my chair and smiled. If Ethan and Olivia wanted to play hardball, I was ready to pick up the bat. Time to show them what a real power play looked like. Detective Rodriguez turned out to be younger than I expected, maybe 40, with intelligent eyes and the kind of patient calm that probably worked well in family disputes. We met at the station Monday morning, and I brought my entire financial file. "Mrs. Miller," he began gently, "I want to say first that the person who called seemed genuinely worried about your well-being." "I'm sure she did," I said dryly. "My daughter-in-law is excellent at sounding concerned when it suits her." I spread my bank statements across his desk. Detective, in the last 3 years, I've given my son and his wife $124,000. Would you like to see the documentation? His brows shot up as he studied the papers. Checks, wire transfers, credit card payments. I spread the statements out on the desk and watched the pattern emerge. A steady feed of money that, plain and simple, bought their lifestyle. This is substantial, the detective said, carefully. It is, I agreed. And then I told him what happened yesterday, how I finally set boundaries and, in return, they decided I must be mentally unwell. I played the 3 a.m. voicemail Amanda left, her voice shaking, telling me I was acting insane, urging me to get some help, saying Michael thought I might be breaking down. Detective Rodriguez listened and took notes. Has there been any history of cognitive issues, Mrs. Mitchell? He asked. None, I said firmly. I run my finances, I keep my house, I drive myself where I need to go. The only thing that's changed is I stopped letting them take advantage of me. I slid the deed and loan papers across his desk, the documents Laura had sent, and explained that my lawyer could verify I'm a legal co-owner. Everything I'm doing is within my rights as an investor, and I was protecting my assets after canceling a reception I was funding for people who told me to disappear. I honored their request. We talked another 20 minutes. Detective Rodriguez was thorough, but fair, and by the end he seemed satisfied I was mentally competent and financially clear-headed. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to close this as unfounded, he said, but I'll leave you some resources on elder financial abuse, just in case. I thanked him, and told him I had the situation well in hand. As I drove away from the station my phone rang. Michael again. Mom, the police called. They said they're not pursuing the welfare check. That makes sense, I said. That's because I'm not the one being financially abused here. There was a long pause. What's that supposed to mean? He asked finally. It means you and Amanda have been draining my accounts for years, while giving me nothing but disrespect in return. The detective was very interested in my paperwork. Another pause. Are you threatening us? He demanded. I'm informing you the manipulation stops now, I said. Can we just sit down and talk like adults? He begged. We can, I said, but not at the house I co-own, and not until Amanda apologizes for her behavior. She's sorry, he blurted. She's been crying for 2 days. Has she? I asked. Because the voicemail she left at 3 in the morning suggested she thinks I'm mentally ill, not that she's sorry. We went back and forth until I set a time and place. Laura Kim's office, tomorrow at 2. Bring Amanda, I told him, and bring a realistic plan for how you'll handle the house. I own 35% of an asset worth $300,000. That's my retirement. You either buy me out, or we sell. Those are your options. After I hung up, I realized the power balance had shifted. For the first time in years, they needed something from me more than I needed them. Laura's law office felt neutral. Dark wood, leather books, a place where paper mattered. Ethan and Olivia arrived 15 minutes late, tense and arguing in the car. Olivia's eyes were puffy, her makeup gone. She looked like someone who'd been crying for days. Part of me softened. The other part remembered her words. The best gift would be if you disappeared from our family. Dorothy, Olivia started immediately. I owe you an enormous apology. I was stressed and overwhelmed. I didn't mean what I said. Thank you, I replied, and that was a start. She looked startled, like she'd expected me to wave away the past with a quick, all is forgiven. Laura spread the house documents neatly across the conference table. Let's review the facts, she said briskly. Claire provided $87,000 for the down payment. The mortgage lists her as a co-borrower. The deed shows her with a 35% ownership stake. Ethan stared at the papers like they might magically rewrite themselves. We had no idea she actually owned part of the house, he muttered. You would have, Laura replied crisply, if Olivia had signed the acknowledgement forms. I sent them 3 times. I was busy with wedding planning, Olivia said weakly. For 3 years. Laura's tone was perfectly skeptical. I let them squirm a moment before speaking. The question now is how we move forward. I have a proposal. They both leaned in with desperate hope. Option 1. You buy my 35% at market value. About $105,000. Olivia went pale. We don't have that kind of money. Option 2, we put the house on the market and split the proceeds by percentage. We'd have to move, Ethan whispered. Yes, I said, to somewhere you can actually afford. What about option 3? Olivia asked desperately. There is no option 3, I told her. Those are your choices. Laura pulled out a calculator. If you sold today, after realtor fees and closing costs, you'd net about $270,000. Claire's share would be around $95,000. You'd have $175 left to find new housing. That's not enough for anything decent, Olivia cried. It's enough for a comfortable apartment, I said, or a smaller house in a different neighborhood. You know, the kind of place people with your income should be living. Ethan dragged his hands through his hair. Mom, maybe we could work out a payment plan? Pay you monthly until we've bought out your share. I had been waiting for that. At what interest rate? And backed by what collateral? You've already proven you don't honor financial agreements. That's not fair, isn't it? I cut in. You still owe me $37,000 in emergency loans you never intended to repay. Why would I trust you with another $100,000? Olivia burst into tears again. This is going to destroy our lives. No, Olivia, I said calmly. It's going to force you to live within your means, maybe for the first time in your adult life. But what about our credit? Our reputation? She pleaded. I almost laughed. Your credit? Honey, it's already shot. You've been late on nearly every bill for months. I know, because I've been the one bailing you out. Laura cleared her throat. I need to advise you that Claire has every legal right to force a sale. She's being generous by offering these options. How long do we have to decide? Ethan asked. 30 days, I said. That should be enough time to explore your options. As we stood to leave, Olivia grabbed my arm. Claire, please. I know I hurt you, but we're family. Doesn't that count for something? I looked at her hand, then at her face. For a moment, I saw the scared young woman behind the entitled mask. Olivia, family is supposed to count for something, I said quietly. That's exactly the point. 2 weeks into their 30-day deadline, I got an unexpected knock at my hotel door. Carol Hopper stood there, holding a bottle of wine and wearing a determined expression. I hope you don't mind me dropping by, she said. I got your hotel information from Laura Kim. I invited her in, curious why Olivia's mother had come back to Virginia. I came to check on the kids, Carol explained as she settled into the armchair. And to talk to you. How are they holding up? Carol asked gently. Terribly, I admitted. Olivia's having daily panic attacks. Ethan's working overtime, trying to find a loan. They're fighting constantly. I poured us both glasses of wine and was surprised to realize I felt less satisfaction in their misery than I'd imagined I would. Carol, are you here to ask me to reconsider? Actually, no, she said. I'm here to tell you about Olivia's father. That wasn't what I'd expected. Richard spoiled our daughter rotten, Carol went on. Every tantrum was rewarded, every consequence softened, every failure blamed on someone else. She took a thoughtful sip of wine. When Olivia was 16, she totaled her car driving drunk. Instead of letting her face charges, Richard hired the best lawyer money could buy and got it all dismissed. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I've watched my daughter turn into someone I barely recognize, Carol said, her voice low. And I finally get that her problems won't be solved with more money or more rescuing. She reached into her purse and pulled out a check. Olivia asked me to give you this. $25,000. A good faith payment toward buying out your share. I looked at it but didn't take it. And what did you tell her? I asked. That I wouldn't enable her anymore, Carol said firmly. That money was from Richard's life insurance, meant for Olivia's inheritance. But handing it over now would just repeat the same pattern. She ripped the check clean in half. Carol, that's a lot of money. Money Olivia hasn't earned and doesn't deserve, she replied. Claire, I want you to know that whatever you decide about the house, you have my support. Even if it means they lose their home. Especially then? I asked quietly. Especially then. Maybe starting over will finally teach Olivia what gratitude actually means. After Carol left, I sat with my thoughts. For 3 years, I'd been Olivia's enabler too. Every check I wrote taught them someone would always catch them. The question was, what lesson did I want them to learn now? My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Mom, we've been approved for a home equity loan that covers $60,000 toward buying you out. Can we meet to discuss partial payments for the rest? I stared at the message. At least they were trying, which was more than they'd done in years. But a home equity loan meant more debt, not more responsibility. I typed back, we can discuss it, but I want a complete household budget and a realistic plan for paying off all your debts, not just mine. His reply came instantly, anything you want, Mom. We just want to make this right. For the first time since all this began, it sounded like progress. The budget meeting was enlightening, in the worst way. Ethan and Olivia spread their financial papers across Laura's polished conference table like evidence in a crime case. And in a way, that's exactly what it was. Okay, I said, scanning their monthly expenses. $400 a month on restaurants. We both work long hours, Olivia shot back. Sometimes we're too tired to cook. You don't work at all, Olivia. Ethan works long hours. I kept going. $300 a month on clothes. I need to look professional for social events, she insisted. What social events? You don't have a job. Her face flushed, but I didn't stop. $200 for premium cable and streaming. $150 for a gym membership you use maybe twice a month. $800 in credit card minimums, almost all from shopping and vacations. Ethan was quietly adding on his phone. Mom, he said at last, I know it looks bad. It looks like you're living a lifestyle that costs about $12,000 a month, I said, sliding their numbers back across the table, when you're only bringing in $8. But with the home equity loan, Olivia said quickly, we could pay off the credit cards and cut expenses a lot. I glanced at Laura, who was jotting notes with her usual calm precision. Olivia, that's borrowing against the house to cover credit card debt. And what happens when the cards get maxed out again? They won't, she insisted. We've learned our lesson. Have you? I asked, raising a brow. Because I don't see many changes here. You're still eating out all the time, still paying for memberships you don't use, still treating shopping like a hobby. Ethan leaned forward. What would you want to see, Mom? What would convince you we're serious about changing? Finally, the right question. I want a budget that reflects reality. I want to see meals cooked at home, subscriptions cancelled, and Olivia getting a job. A job? Olivia's face went pale. Yes, I said evenly. A job. You're 39 years old, with a degree. There's no reason you can't contribute. But Ethan makes good money, she said weakly. Not good enough, I shot back. Not if you've needed me to plug the holes for 3 years. Laura cleared her throat. Claire, what exactly are you proposing? I'd been thinking about this for days. Here's my offer. You can buy out my share for $75,000 instead of the full $105. But there are conditions. Both their heads snapped up. First, I continued, Olivia gets a job within 60 days and keeps it for at least 2 years. Second, you sell one of your cars and put the money toward debt. Third, you follow a strict budget, no restaurant meals, no unnecessary shopping, and no new debt for 2 years. How would you even monitor that? Ethan asked, cautious. Monthly check-ins with Laura. Bank statements, credit reports, proof of income. If you break the deal, the full balance comes due immediately. Olivia shook her head. That's like financial prison. No, Olivia, I said quietly. That's called accountability. They asked for a moment, huddling in the hallway. Laura leaned toward me. This is either incredibly generous or incredibly cruel. I can't decide. Maybe it's both, I said. When they returned, Ethan spoke for them. We accept your terms. All of them? I pressed. All of them, Olivia echoed, though her face looked like she'd swallowed poison. Laura drafted the agreement, noting it would need to be notarized and filed with the county recorder. I watched as my son and daughter-in-law signed away their financial freedom for the next 2 years. Part of me felt triumphant. Part of me was sad it had come to this. But mostly, I felt like I was finally teaching them a lesson their parents should have taught decades ago. Actions have consequences, and family is no excuse for cruelty. 6 months later, I was in my new apartment, a sunny 2-bedroom in a senior community with a pool and walking trails, when the phone rang. Olivia's voice was lighter than I'd heard in years. Claire, I got the promotion. She'd started as a receptionist at a dental office, and now she was moving up to office manager. That's wonderful, honey, I said warmly. How do you feel? Exhausted, she laughed, and it was the first genuine laugh I'd heard from her in years. But proud. I never knew I was good at organizing things, Olivia admitted. You always were, I told her. You just never had to use those skills before. There was a pause on the line. Claire, I owe you an apology. A real one, not the panicked mess from Laura's office. I'm listening, I said. I was awful to you for years. I treated you like an ATM and got angry when you dared to have feelings about it. I told myself you were just being dramatic. But the truth? I was entitled. I was cruel. I set down my coffee cup, surprised by how deeply her words landed. What changed your mind? Working, she said simply. Having to earn money instead of asking for it. Realizing how hard it is to save even $100 when you're paying bills. Understanding what you sacrificed for us. And Ethan, he's getting there. He still thinks you were too harsh, but even he admits we needed to change. Out my window, I watched neighbors tending the community garden. I'd signed up to help with spring planting next week. And how are things between you two? I asked. Better, she said softly. We actually talk now that we're not drowning in stress. We cook together. We take walks instead of shopping. It's nice. I'm glad, I told her. Then came the question I never expected. Claire, would you like to come to dinner sometime? Nothing fancy. Just spaghetti, maybe some conversation that isn't about money. I thought about it. The old me would have said yes instantly, desperate to patch things up. But the new me knew the value of boundaries. I'd like that, I said carefully, but let's start with lunch in a public place. Baby steps. Of course, she said quickly. Whatever makes you comfortable. After we hung up, I sat quietly, processing how different this conversation felt. Olivia sounded like an adult taking responsibility, not a child making excuses. Maybe, just maybe, the lesson had stuck. My phone buzzed with a text from Carol Harper. Heard about Olivia's promotion. Thank you for not giving up on her. I texted back, thank you for not bailing her out. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. Sometimes love means saying no. And sometimes the best gift you can give is the chance for someone to discover who they really are when no one's there to catch them. I'd spent 3 years as their safety net. In doing so, I robbed them of the chance to build their own strength. Only when I finally pulled it away did they learn to fly. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. And maybe that was the most valuable lesson of all. Outside my window, the sun dipped low over the walking trail where I'd signed up for the senior hiking group. Tomorrow, I was meeting a man named Frank for lunch. He'd asked me after we both cracked up at the same joke during book club last week. At 68, I was finally learning what it meant to be valued for who I am, not for what I provide. And that is worth more than all the money I ever gave away. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and feel free to share your own story in the comments.